Our next guest is the governor of Massachusetts. Please welcome to the show, Governor Maura Healey, everyone. Governor Healey, how are you?
Oh, I'm great.
It's so wonderful to have you, and it's been a very Massachusetts-themed evening here with Mindy as well. Now, you were not born in Massachusetts. You were born in Maryland, correct?
That's correct, at Bethesda. My dad was in the service.
Your dad was in the service, but it was so important to your grandmother for you to be born on Massachusetts soil that she did something very novel.
Yeah, I mean, statute of limitations long expired, but my grandmother was so upset that I wasn't going to be born over New England soil. So she went out to the woods and she dug up some dirt, and then she got on a plane, and she was a nurse.
Okay.
And at the time, nurses used to wear like the full cap and starched, outfit there. She gets on a plane, goes right to Bethesda Naval Hospital, like walks into the delivery room, sticks a bag of dirt under the hospital bed, and I was born over New England soil. Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like she knew you might be governor.
Well, I didn't.
Yeah, but it's very impressive. I want to talk a little bit about last night's speech. Let me guess, you loved it.
Yeah. I thought he had more to say. It's too short.
They cut it a little short. You were like, hey, you were just getting started, buddy.
Yeah.
Do you, weirdly, not a lot was said. I mean, most of it was him reflecting back on both his election victory and what he's accomplished in the last, 43 days. Not a lot of planning ahead. And yet, as you watch it, you can be outraged by it, but it sort of was, I think, maybe exactly what anyone could expect. Would you say that?
Absolutely. There's no plan. There's no articulation of a vision for this country in a meaningful way. And I think what really bothers me, Seth, as a governor, every day I'm trying to deliver for folks in my state. How do I lower costs? How do I build more homes? How do I make sure they have access to health care and good schools? And I didn't hear him say anything about the needs of everyday Americans and how he's going to do like any of those things. And that's one of the things that's so upsetting to me, in addition to the continued recitation of all these lies and conspiracy theories that he told. But it's the idea is like, you're the president of the United States. Your job is to deliver for Americans. You ran on a promise of lowering costs, and all you've done is make life harder and more expensive for people in Massachusetts and around the country.
You were the AG in Massachusetts. You had many lawsuits against the president in his first term. Now you are the governor, and you do. I think any Democratic governor is hopeful that they'll be able to work with a Republican president. Massachusetts has had Republican governors who've gotten good things done with Democratic presidents. But how do you both embrace the idea of working with a Republican administration and the reality of you have a Republican president who doesn't seem to want to do much reaching across the aisle?
I mean, that is certainly the attitude that one has as governor. You want to work with whoever is in the federal administration and hope to do good things in your state. But unfortunately, I mean, it's become clear week after week, firing a bunch of people, driving costs up for people, taking away their health care. I mean, these things are happening real time in our states. I just had a guy fired from the VA in Western Massachusetts who's a 4-time combat deployed veteran. Like, what, right? So, and now with tariffs, and you and I grew up in New Hampshire, and I know the impact on New England of those tariffs, and I want to build housing. I just passed this massive housing bill in Massachusetts to build more homes, right? Our lumber's from Canada, right? Like, it's just going to he is making life so much harder and much more expensive, and it's really tough.
I think it's early days, and you might say that the right path forward is to let Donald Trump do what he's going to do and then find a response to it based on his actions. But do you feel as though the Democratic Party is, at this point, has any plan?
People need to be active.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's frustrating for me to see some of what's gone on the last few weeks, because I think it's important for people to speak up. People in leadership, members of Congress, get out to your districts, stand alongside folks in your districts and listen to them about what they're experiencing, and also educate them about like what these cuts mean, what this guy Musk is doing with Doge, right? I mean, which I think even if you voted for Trump, I don't know how many people voted for the chainsaw, right? And the complete wrecking ball, right, that he is. So that's where people got to be, and that's been my frustration. It's like, you know, you got to get with people. The reason the Democrats lost is because the feeling, I think, was we weren't with people. We weren't empathizing with people. We weren't recognizing everyday needs. Now is the time to run headlong into that, talk about these things, educate, and show them, too, how we are going to actually deliver. I cut taxes in my state. I'm working to lower costs every day. Massachusetts was just ranked #1 in education, healthcare, innovation. Also ranked the best place to live if you're a woman or to have a baby. So cool stuff, right?
Good things. Those are all good things.
Yeah. And we're gonna. I hope we win another championship too with the Celtics.
I would like the Celtics to win another championship myself. I also appreciated that because I think in the aftermath of the election, there was a bit of retreat from the Democratic Party on some issues as well, or the concession that they were no longer going to be issues for Democrats. You stood up recently for DEI, and basically, I heard you in an interview say, like, what is so wrong about the ideas of diversity, equity, inclusion? And that to me was refreshing to hear because, look, I think you can have sometimes criticism on the way those ideas are executed, but the core idea of DEI, I think, is something worth standing up for.
Yeah, I totally agree. And look, I am the product of Title IX, which was the federal law passed in 1971, 72. It's around the time I was born, actually, that said people have got to be treated equally when it comes to education. You know, that enabled me to go to school. It enabled me to play sports. It enabled me to have a professional career, actually, in sports. And I sure would not be governor today were there not in place laws that said, you know what? We need to have women at the table in schools, in the military, in business, in government. We need to have people of color. We need to have people with disabilities. We need to have gay people, right? Like, why is that bad for our country? And so we need to get away from this caricature that's been made of DEI. Say the actual words. Tell me what's wrong with diversity, you know? It's only made us stronger as a country.
You mentioned you played basketball in college. And I really appreciate that you didn't say where you went, but there we go. We'll just let everybody else figure it out.
I shouldn't. Look at that hair.
Yeah, really good hair.
Can you explain though, like that's late '80s, early '90s?
Yeah.
Like that was the look.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like everybody's like, "What were you doing?" You were like, "What everyone else was doing."
Exactly. Yeah. Body perm.
And as exciting as it was that you played for Harvard, what is really cool to me is afterwards you played professionally. But you did not play professionally in the States. I guess there would be no way to do that at the time. So you had to go overseas. Where did you play professional basketball?
I played in Austria and Germany.
All right, so these are you are back in the day.
My teammates in the Bundesliga.
So you're in the Bundesliga. You were living in Austria. What now? Let me guess. 80s. Austrian professional women's
90s.
basketball, 90s.
90s.
You're staying at like the Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons, nicest hotel.
Oh, you know it. Sound of Music.
Yeah.
Get that castle. No, I was actually living in a barn. Well, I actually had a little area carved out next to the barn.
So you saw the barn and you're like, am I staying there? They're like, no, next to it.
Yeah, no. Hey, you know what?
The barn is not for you.
I was just happy. I was getting played to play basketball, so I was like all good and all the beer that I wanted in the world and great people, great time. But at night, when I went to bed, I had this cow, you know, mooing and like banging into my headboard basically every night.
Did they tell you about the cow when they first offered you the gig, or was it when you showed up?
When I showed up, and you know, this is back before we had cell phones or email. I made a call a week. Like, there's kind of not much I could do but to go with the situation. But it all worked out.
It's fantastic. Look, I mean, I moved overseas. I went to the Netherlands to do, improv comedy in the 90s. It was pretty awesome.
It's great.
I mean, it was nice too. No cow for me. Not to brag, but they didn't put me next to it. This again, it's very thematic, and it's really a shame they're not a sponsor of tonight's show. But you are also a big fan of Dunkin's.
I am.
And
you cannot be the governor of Massachusetts without being a big fan of Dunkin's.
But can I say, like, I appreciate that. I feel like some Dunkin's fans are, like, really, like, loud about it. And there's a real subtlety to the way you let people know.
Yeah. So we all make mistakes.
By the way, not only this is a second. This is a separate day.
That's true. I wore it twice.
You wore it twice.
I wore it twice. Yeah. Hey, Ben and Matt, you know, it was only fair. The Dunk Kings, we should have some
the Dunk Queens. You guys are the Dunk Queens. It's very nice. Yeah. You, again, I think New Englanders are not shy about sharing their opinion. So you're the governor of a New England state. You're out amongst the people. Like, what is the sort of feedback you get? I'm assuming people are not shy.
Oh, yeah, we're not known for being shy. We're not known for being excellent drivers.
No.
Either when you come to Massachusetts, but don't let that scare you away. They're not shy. Usually it starts with a big wave and a Mara, you know, that kind of thing. And then from there, it just goes. A lot of them want me to issue executive orders about what's happening with our sports teams, who should be traded, who should be the coach, all that. But, you know, not within my power.
That's fantastic.
People are good. It's as you know, New England, it's a great state. It's a great region. You know, we could be seemingly a little tough on the outside, but you know, we're people of tremendous warmth and heart and grit, and we look after one another. And you know, that's my job as governor of Massachusetts.
And do you feel as though we can find any optimism in the current state of things?
Yeah. I had to, you know, I took a breath. You know what? Yes. And it's coming from regular people, okay? And my message to folks out there is to speak up, certainly to Democratic leaders, but also to everyday Americans. Tell your stories, speak up. This is still a democracy, and it's one we have to work every day to keep. And that's what I just encourage people to do. And with that, we'll find our way through this. There's rough sledding ahead, but we're gonna find our way.
All right, well, thank you for coming here and speaking with us.
Hey,
I really appreciate it. You guys, this is
ready.
Governor Maura Healey, everybody. We'll be right back.